Good morning and welcome to the Knit Shift episode 19. My name is Laura and today is Thursday, August 6th, 2015. If you're new here, welcome. This is a knitting podcast where I talk about my knitting projects and yarn. If you're coming back, thank you so much for spending some of your time with me. I really appreciate it. Show notes for this episode can be found at theknitshift.com. If you're watching this, you probably know where to find the episodes, but if not, they're available on iTunes, YouTube, and through theknitshift.com. If you're on Ravelry, there is a Ravelry group for the podcast, so come on over and join, please. We'd love to have you. And I myself am on Instagram as Laura Mahalski, and I'm on Ravelry as Yarnstormer. And I think that's it for all of the intro stuff. We have a knit along going on in our Ravelry group right now for baby knits. It's almost over. It started June 1st. And it concludes August 31st. It's all about baby knits and baby crochet projects. I think Jess, aka Saranova, had a question about whether crochet projects counted, and they do. They absolutely do. I'm an equal opportunity crafter because I crocheted before I was a knitter. You have to be a member of the group. You can post photos in the finished object thread. There are prizes to be given away. I have a skein of Malabrigo Machita yarn. I have a project bag from a lovely shop on Etsy, Knitty Kitty Bags, and I have a needle keeper. I haven't decided yet how I will split up those prizes because I do want to maximize the prizes. So I don't know if it will be 2 prizes or 3 prizes. So we'll see. I'll draw numbers out of a hat, a random number generator to decide who wins the prize. So the only real restriction is baby socks count if you have multiple pairs of baby socks, just because they're so little. Otherwise, just do a new post for each finished project you have. And I think that's it for knit along stuff. This week's episode, I have a lot of finished objects to show you, perhaps the most ever. It's only 3, so I don't want to act like I was that prolific. I didn't record last week since I was out of town, so I had a little more time than usual to finish some projects. So I have 3 finished projects to show you. I have 1 work in progress to show you, and I'm going to talk about my trip to New York City, and I have some good news to share at the end, which is something I spoke of in last week's episode. At the very end, I said I had some good news to share, so I'll be sharing that later in the episode. So let's get to it because I have a lot to talk about, and this is probably going to be a longer episode than normal. I try to keep them around 30 minutes, but there's no way that's going to happen today. There's too much to talk about. So without further ado, let's get right into the knitting. I have a pair of socks to show you. Last week, or 2 weeks ago, the previous episode, these socks were nearly done. I was on the ribbing of the second sock, and they are washed and blocked now. These are knit from the Flying Kettle, which is a shop on Etsy. I'll link to it in the show notes. It's her glider base, and it's a merino nylon blend, 400 yards per skein, and this colorway is Grog-Bellied Sea Dog, which I just thought was such a fun name. And it was so beautiful in the skein. When I saw it, I thought, oh my gosh, I just have to have this. And I didn't wait very long between buying it and when I cast it on, and I'm glad I didn't wait because these are so pretty. The base is kind of a sky blue, and then there are just so many blips of color. There's fuchsia, there's purple, there's kind of a medium sea blue or cerulean, there's no orange, there's greeny bits, and there's my favorite, which I say every time, are these little bits that look like a yellow highlighter. I just think they're so pretty. So these are pretty tall. I wear size 11s, US, and I knit these very tall, and I don't have much yarn left over, and I'm quite pleased that I used the yarn so efficiently. I knit these on a US 1 or a 2.25 millimeter. I found that over time I've had to go down in needle sizes as I knit my socks. I guess I'm becoming a looser knitter over time. So these days I'm really using US 1s or US 1.5 for socks. But as for the construction, I knit these one at a time. I cast on at the toe 32 stitches with Judy's Magic Cast On, so 16 on top, 16 on bottom. Let me take this off and I'll show you the toe. I've started to knit a rounder toe than I used to. Of course, I haven't been wearing socks because it's been summer, but I'm eager to see how I feel about wearing these in the fall. So I increase every round at first to really round it out, and then I increase every third round. Basically, I start with 32. I increased every round, here, 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 and here, until I get to 48 stitches, 24 and 24 each needle. I'm knitting these magic loop, of course. And then once I hit the 48 stitches total, I increase every third round until I think I got to 68 stitches for these socks. So then I go up the foot, and I did a Fish Lips Kiss heel, and then carried on up the leg, did some 2x2 ribbing, and I might have used the Russian bind off instead of Jenny's surprisingly stretchy bind off. I can't tell. I'm not good enough to know if that's what I did. Let me compare it. Let me look at the other sock I was going to show you. I don't know. This bind off looks a little more firm than usual, so maybe I did do the Russian bind off for these. I honestly can't remember. So these are my 5th pair of socks for 2015. In past years, I'm a little behind where I was in previous years in terms of sock knitting, but it's never a competition to best myself. I just think I've been enjoying knitting other things a bit more. So, first finished object to show you, and I will take these socks off the blockers and put something else on them. Now, the ends on these socks are not yet woven in, but that's okay. Nor have they been blocked, and that's okay. I'm very eager to show them to you. These were some long lingering socks. I started these back in May, and I finished them before my trip to New York. So we'll just pretend there aren't strings hanging off of these. So these are my 6th pair of socks knit this year. These are also for myself. I even still have a stitch marker left here. These are knit from Gail's Art sock yarn in her Wonder sock base, which is a Superwash BFL 7525 merino nylon. The colorway is Graffiti and Asphalt, and it's 465 yards. I knit these on a US 1.5 or a 2.5 millimeter. And I'm very happy with these. This is, you can kind of see here, I was kind of disappointed in this yarn. I knit these 2 at a time from opposite ends of the skein. And as I knit them, I discovered that one end of the skein was dyed differently than the first half. And I don't know if you can see it very well, but this sock I'm holding over here, there's a lot more pink in it than there is in this sock. And this sock just looks muddier. This sock has like more browns and greens than this sock. Let me hold them up so you can see a little easier. And it's not the end of the world. I'm sure that dyeing a yarn with this many colors in it takes a really long time. I don't know anything about dyeing, but I'm sure it's quite a process. And when I saw this yarn in the skein, I had to buy it because it was so darn beautiful and there's just so many colors. But I didn't love it as much knit up, which is unfortunate, but there you have it. So I could have made these quite a bit taller, but I didn't, just because I was really sick of knitting them at a certain point. So I just hustled to finish them before my trip to New York. And basically the same construction as the other socks I just showed you, except I did, instead of the Fish Lips Kiss heel, I hadn't done a gusset in a while, so I did a toe-up gusset, and I did a heel flap. I guess you can't see it this way. I did a slip stitch heel flap to give it a little more stability. I find that the heel flap might fit my foot a little bit better, but I think it just wears better overall. So this is my 6th pair of socks for the year. And that brings me to my third finished object, perhaps an unprecedented third finished object. Let me have a sip of water here. This project is one you have not seen on the podcast. I started it right before I went to New York, and I knit it on the train. I knit it while hanging out with my friend, and I knit it on the train back home. And I had like 5 rows left by the time I got home, so I finished it at home here this week. So this is a baby sweater. Oh my gosh, it's so tiny. This is the Newborn Vertebrae by Kelly Brooker. It's a free pattern. Let me hold it up backwards so you can see the pretty stockinette stitch. It's a very, very simple baby pattern if you are not familiar with it. It's knit seamlessly. You start at the top and do increases, and then you separate for the sleeves and put the sleeves on the waist yarn, and you knit down the body. And I opted to, instead of knitting the sleeves right away, I opted to pick up the stitches on the edge and knit the button band. Well, the non-button band, because there's no buttons. I knit this on 2 sizes of needles, which is what the pattern calls for. I knit this on a size 3 and a size 1.5 because that's what I had in New York when I needed the smaller needle size. This yarn is Pagewood Farms Chugiak. I'm sure I'm bungling that name. It's a 100% merino sock yarn. It's 450 yards, which is very generous, and the colorway is Fabulous Fall, and it really is fabulous. It's red and hints of rust and brown, and this is for a baby girl. She is due in November, and I just thought it was really lovely and could be unisex if the couple decides to have more children. I will say about this yarn, it bled a lot as I was knitting it. On the train up to New York, I thought I had spilled something on my hands. My fingers were so red, or I had it almost looked like a burn because it was just, a red slice across my finger in a way. So I'm really going to have to soak this, and I'm disappointed so much dye came off on my hands. But it wasn't consistent, It started that way, but then as time went on, it got a little better in terms of less dye coming off on my fingers. But then it picked back up again, so it was just very inconsistent. That being said, this took barely half a skein of yarn, so it's a great little pattern. I did make a modification. Instead of knitting, I think the pattern called for ribbing on the cuffs, I decided to do garter stitch, and same goes for the button band. I did a garter button band instead of ribbing, so yeah, I'm really pleased with this. I think it'll be a perfect this is such a nice little sweater for babies because it just covers their back. It's super easy to get them in and out of when they're tiny and they're sleeping all the time anyway. So I'm really pleased with this. This took like 8 days of off and on knitting, so it's very fast if you need a quick gift. So I will fold that up and put it over there. And so I have only one work in progress to show you, and it's not because I finished others. I thought about it, and because I had so much to talk about today, I decided that I would only show you my shawls. I have 2 shawls going, both of which I showed you in the previous episode 18. I'm going to show you those in the even-numbered episodes because I don't knit enough on shawls to see negligible progress in a week. I'm really a stockinette type knitter, and I'm hopeful I will have some time to focus on my 2 shawls I have going. I have a pie shawl in cobweb weight yarn held double, and I have a forest canopy shawl knit out of sock yarn. And I'm really excited about the forest canopy shawl, so I'm hopeful I will have some good progress to show you. I'm knitting that with a gradient yarn, and I'm really eager to see how it progresses. Without further ado, let me show you my work in progress. I'm carrying this around in my Nomadic Yarns Polar Bear bag. It's just a tiny little, it's the perfect size for a sock in sock yarn. And I'm knitting a Zauberball sock. I forget who makes Zauberball. I'm sure someone will correct me. It's a German company. Is it Schoppel? Schoppel? I might just be pulling that out of thin air, but this is a bright pink with purple, and I don't know what's further inside. I didn't really, dig my fingers in to see what else is in there. But I'm knitting these one at a time on, I believe, a 1.5, US 1.5. Yes, 1.5, 2.5 millimeters. And so here it is. It started with a nice mottled purple and pink. It moved into purple, and now I'm getting back into the pink here at the top. So, I really like this yarn. It's a merino nylon blend, and I believe it's like 450 yards. It's quite generous. So, these will be fraternal, because of the way they dye the yarn. So I'm enjoying knitting on these, and my next section will be really shocking pink. So I'm excited to see how things progress. I'm very easily entertained with color changing yarn, I have to say. It makes things extra fun. So that brings me to yarns, which, if you're new here, is just what I call my segment about new yarn. I have several things to show you, and in fact, I got a delivery while I was in New York that I'm saving so that I have more yarn to show you next week, because I feel like my yarn buying will be on a hiatus for the foreseeable future, because of, I knew I was going to buy yarn on this trip. I knew I had this yarn coming to me in the mail, so, I mean, never say never, but I'm probably going to wait until a trip I have planned in October to do much more buying of yarn. And if I tell you about it, perhaps that will keep me accountable and I won't buy yarn. We'll see. So, I have 3 skeins of yarn to show you today. These are all from a yarn store I visited in Brooklyn, which I will tell you about later in the episode when I talk about my trip. First up, I have a skein of Plucky Knitter Primo Fingering. It's 385 yards. It's a 75-25 Superwash Merino Cashmere Nylon. So it is luscious and soft, as you might imagine, and it's this beautiful pale pink, and the colorway is Cake Plate. So 385 yards is a little bit short for me in terms of yardage for socks, but I'm contemplating knitting like a sock head hat, like a slouchy stockinette hat out of this. Perhaps striped with something, we'll see. I just think it would feel so nice on my head. Oh, it's like butter. I have another skein of sock yarn to show you. Surprise, surprise. That is my go-to purchase when I'm traveling and I want souvenir yarn. This is Very Me. Bam! Look at all those colors. This feels like an enormous skein of sock yarn. It feels like a big honkin' skein. It's not, the yardage is 434 yards, but it's just a very fluffy sock yarn. It's hefty. So this is Spun Right Round, which is I've heard so many things about. So it's a new to me dyer, but I've been following, I think Renee is the dyer's name. I've been following her on Instagram forever. I covet her yarn, and then when I saw this shop had it, I said, oh yes, this is coming home with me. So this is a 75-25 Superwash Corriedale nylon blend. It's it's called Snappy Socks, and the colorway is Escape from Prism, which was fun. So it has purples. It's just very it reminds me of Crayola crayons. It's purple and golden yellow and forest green, and I don't think there's any blue in here. It's just really fun. Oh, well, there's kind of, no, I guess that's not, but there's a very intriguing shade of dark green here. And there's some blips. Mostly it's just variegated, so I'm very excited to see how this knits up. This will certainly be a pair of socks for myself. I've never knit with Corriedale, which is another reason I wanted to buy this. This is going to sound silly, but it's both soft and scratchy. Maybe I should say it feels soft and sturdy. Like, it feels pretty soft, but because of the nylon content and something in the Corriedale, it's just not as soft as merino. So I feel like if I knit these at a tight enough gauge, these socks will last forever and ever. So I'm very excited to knit this up sooner rather than later, I think. And finally, that brings me to my final skein of yarn. This is not sock yarn, which is unusual for me, but I need to remember that sometimes I like to knit at a larger gauge. So I saw this color and I gasped. I just was so drawn to it. So this is Skeiny Dipping Yarns, and it's Journey Worsted, which is a 100% superwash merino, 200 yards, and the colorway is Bag of Juju, which I just thought was fun. Also Skeiny Dipping, and the dyer and I follow each other on Instagram, so I was excited when I put a photo of this up on Instagram and she noticed it. So it's just a beautiful glowing purple. It just has the yarn feels like it has a really nice twist to it, and it has a lot of depth to it, this color. So I'm very excited to knit this up. Probably a hat, I think. Maybe a cowl, I don't know yet, we'll see. But it's a very me color, I think. So those were my purchases. Oh, I just realized I forgot to grab something. Oh well, it's not yarn related. It deals with my time in New York, but that's okay. I can show it in another episode. So that brings us to odds and ends, aka time to talk about my trip to New York City. Have a sip of water. It's a very gray day here, but of course it's hot and humid because it's summer in Norfolk, Virginia, so the rain is just adding to the humidity in general. We're back. Sorry about that. So we are in odds and ends now, and I wanted to talk to you about my trip to New York. I was on the train a week ago from today. I had to get up absurdly early and be at the train station by 4:30 in the morning, which is hard to do when you work normally until midnight the night before. I was able to get out a little early, but not by much. So the train ride was uneventful. I got there on time. My friend met me at Penn Station, and it was raining really hard in New York, and she was a lifesaver because she brought me an umbrella, so I wasn't stuck getting soaked. One of the things I wanted to do was visit a beauty product store very close to Penn Station, and it was called Tony Moly, and it's a Korean beauty products company. They had just opened this store, so I was eager to go because it looked like a lot of fun stuff, and their prices are pretty inexpensive. So we went there and basically ran there in the rain. It was about a 4-block walk from Penn Station over to the store. So it was really great. I think it's on 32nd Street if you ever get the chance to go. I don't remember the exact address, but I'll link to it in the show notes. But they have a lot of face masks, and if you're familiar with the beauty product store Sephora, they sell some Tony Moly products, but not a ton of them. So I was eager to track down their wide selection of face masks, and I bought a ton. They were like $3 a piece, so I felt like I could stock up on quite a few, and I'd have them for a while because they're in individual packets. So there were all of these cute, and the packaging was just really adorable. There were all of these, like the one, my friend and I did one, and we each used one with a tomato on it. So here's one with pomegranate, here's one with avocado, here's one with lemon, and the real kicker was, wait for it, a sheep face mask. And there is nothing on here in English to explain why it's a sheep, and the back is this wolf illustration. So it just says 2015 Tony Moly mask sheet, hello sheep. And they also had Hello Sheep hand cream, so I had to buy it because knitting. And also with the lack of English on the back. I don't speak Korean, but the hand cream smelled really good. They had a ton of testers out, so I will probably, I think I will stick one of these in at least one of the prizes for the knit along, so stay tuned for that. Not the sheep one though, the sheep one I'm keeping for myself. So it was a really fun time at that store, and this friend of mine, we were friends in college. You know, we met freshman year in the honors psychology class we had together. We were both in the honors college at Penn State and lived across the street from each other, and we just became really good friends, and we worked in the writing center together as tutors. We got to present at a conference at the University of Kansas together on writing center tutoring. We were really similar, and we had fun together, and we wear the same size shoe. We both have really big feet, size 10.5 or 11, so I lived on the same hall as her our first semester of our junior year, so we would share shoes all the time. So it occurred to me that I hadn't really gotten to spend this time with her since college, this amount of time. I was there from Thursday through Sunday, and she's 30 weeks pregnant, and we just had a really nice time. We took long walks. We walked, she lives on the Upper East Side, and we walked through Central Park to the Upper West Side to go to a Michael's to run some errands, which was fun. And, you know, we cooked at home. It was just really, really nice. I just had such a wonderful time, and it was relaxing, and it was so good to catch up. And it was just wonderful, you know. It was great. So I'm really thankful I went on this trip, and I had a really nice time. I did visit 2 yarn stores, and Michael's doesn't count. I visited Annie's on the Upper East Side. It's at 82nd and 2nd Ave. And it was really nice. It was huge. You know, for a shop in New York City, this was massive. You walk in, and needlepoint is on the left, and knitting and yarn is on the right. So they had just a great selection. They had Malabrigo. They just had so many brands. It was a really lovely shop. So I didn't buy anything, but I enjoyed browsing quite a bit. And the other store we went to was called Gauge and Tension, and it is a weekends only yarn shop in Greenpoint, Brooklyn. I don't know much about the backstory of it, except that they are open Saturdays and Sundays, and they focus on small, like, independent dyers mostly, it seems like. They do carry Brooklyn Tweed, Loft and Shelter. I didn't even see all of the brands, but it was a very small selection. And to get there, so we had to take 3 subways to get there. We had to transfer twice, which was kind of an ordeal. But, you know, it's neither here nor there. So we found the shop very easily. It's like 5 minutes from the subway, and it's in this warehouse, and there's a sign outside to ring the doorbell, and you know, there's like a little chalkboard sign, and it says ring the blue bell. So we ring the blue bell. Well, first I should say, someone was leaving as we were approaching, so I just grabbed the door and went in, and it just looked like a hall of offices. And I was like, it was like a 6-story factory-looking warehouse, and I thought, I'm not going to go door to door. So I came back outside, and we rang the bell, and someone from the shop came and got us. And they were right there on the first floor, but you just don't know which, because it's just like a closed office store. So you walk in, and it's this massive space. They have room for sewing lessons, and I believe knitting lessons, and they sell some needle sewing stuff, I think, but really I was just there for the yarn. And they had a very modest selection, but what they had was really, really lovely. They had a great selection. What else? So that was where I bought the 3 skeins of yarn. Hi, Gracie. Do you want to come over here? Gracie's standing right off camera and looking at me and wagging. Come here. Come on up. She knows it's the time of day where she normally gets a Greenie, which is her favorite snack. She gets one a day, and it's always right around this time, which is 11:30. So yeah. So let me pull up my notes and see where I am. Oh, okay. So that was my trip to New York. I got home Sunday afternoon. Yes, okay, sit right there and lick my face. Thank you. As always, her timing is impeccable. Are you all done? You gonna find a seat right there? I'd like to focus on the podcast, please. So, Gracie, your butt is on camera. Come here, come on. I'm sorry. Okay. All right. I am sorry for this. Okay, so this brings me to my awesome news to share. So, if you watched last week's episode, you saw that I mentioned that I got a new job at the paper. It means more responsibility. My hours will change a little bit. I will be in charge of planning and executing the daily print paper, which is a very big responsibility, and I'm very, very excited for it. What was also brewing at the time, but I couldn't say, is that my boyfriend Josh is leaving. We both work at the paper. We met at the paper. He's a page designer there. He is leaving the paper to finish his degree. He came here as an intern like me, but I had graduated and had my degree, but he had not graduated yet. So he doesn't have a degree yet. But he has been chipping away. He's gone to school a few times and it's been too hard to pull off school and work. But for the past year and a half or so, he has been going to school and working. And he's going to school for business. And he's slowly ramped up his credit hours to the point where in the spring he worked full-time and went to school full-time. And he did very well. He got all A's. But this fall, he starts some pretty advanced classes that really are going to need his full attention. So he's leaving the paper. In fact, his last day is the same day as my first day at the new job. And so I'm really excited for him. It's been hard keeping it a secret for the past year and a half plus. I mean, my family knows and a few friends knew, but he's just been working really hard. And I'm really proud of him, and I can't wait to see him graduate in less than 2 years. So that's my big news. So he'll be... Sorry, Gracie's getting comfortable up against me. So he'll be going to school really full-time. He'll have even more credits in the fall, and we'll probably have an internship in the spring. So a lot of fun changes ahead. I'm really excited about it. Normally I'm not someone that likes change, but I'm just really excited overall for all of this. I'm kind of taking it as a chance to refocus on getting to bed at a decent time, because he's going to be getting up early to do work before school, and then he has school. And I'm trying to take it as an opportunity to kind of adjust my sleep schedule. And now that I'm working and he's not, and he's not working at the office, I should say. Now that our schedules will be more different, I'm really going to make an effort to be better about cooking dinners and that kind of stuff. I mean, I still will be working 1:30 to 10 p.m. every day, so I won't be home to cook dinner. But I want to make more of an effort to cook in advance and have leftovers, and I will be able to take a dinner break and come home, which is great. I live 5 minutes from my office. So I've been going through some cookbooks lately and circling some easy recipes that will probably make some leftovers. And so the one book I have right here is Healthy Cooking for Two, or Just You, by Frances Price, registered dietitian. So I've been marking recipes in there. I'm going to go to skinnytaste.com, which is one of my favorite recipe websites. It's called Skinny Taste, but it's just, a lot of food blogs are butter, and more butter, but Skinny Taste is really healthy, good food, and it doesn't feel like you're eating health food. It's just really delicious food. That's the bottom line. So I will be doing more cooking. I'm going to aim to cook dinner at least twice a week for us, so that we have dinner and then a meal of leftovers from each of them. So I know that sounds silly, because a lot of people cook dinner every night of the week and it's not a problem, but I eat lunch at home instead of dinner, all the time. So I pack peanut butter sandwiches for work, but my lunch at home has been my meal at home with my significant other for years now. So I'll try and cook dinner a couple times a week. We'll see how well it goes. I already use my crock pot all the time on the weekends, so I've got my work cut out for me. So I will try and stick to it. This whole thing starts in a little over a week, less than 2 weeks. So I'm very excited about it. What else did I have to talk about? Yeah, I'm ready for fall, and I'm ready for weather so that I can be outside again and enjoy the sun and not feel like I'm gonna melt, which is how I feel right now when I go outside. I'm ready for fall knitting. I'm ready for college football season and just sitting on the couch Saturday mornings and watching football and watching English football, which is also big in our household. So I'm just looking forward to the fall and what it will bring. So I think that was about everything, and I think I still kept this on the short side. So anyway, I hope you have a great week. Did I forget something? I feel like I forgot something, but maybe not. So yeah, have a great week. I'll see you next week. I'm back to a regular podcasting schedule now that I'm back in action. I still plan to record on Thursday or Friday, even though my job has changed. I'll just be making sure I do it earlier in the day. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. Take care. I'll see you next week. Bye.